Hi guys, welcome to my first YouTube tutorial. Let's get right into it. I'm using an 80 grit sanding block to sand my tumbler down really well. This is a 12-ounce straight tumbler from Craft Haven. I'll link their website down below in the description box. This is so important to get this sanded down very well. It's going to help our spray paint adhere to it nice and smoothly so we don't get any like clumps or drips or anything like that. Once I sand it down well, I'm going to spray down 91% rubbing alcohol onto a piece of paper towel and just make sure all that residue is cleaned off the tumbler, and then we're ready to start. So all I did here was I just spray painted the bottom of my tumbler with a flat white primer spray paint. I used the brand Rust-Oleum. You can use any white primer for this. We're just getting the bottom. We're using a full wrap vinyl for this tumbler, so we don't need to necessarily spray paint the whole tumbler. It's not needed. I'm gonna just measure down how big I want my size of vinyl to be, and then I'm gonna start pushing down on the top right around the rim. That's gonna help me measure where I'm gonna be slicing that at. I don't want to use or waste any vinyl that I don't need, and I'll just save that for another project. I'm going to get a final measurement of my vinyl to make sure I'm 100% happy with how big the piece is for my tumbler. And then I'm going to peel off just about an inch from the backing here. You don't really want to rip off the entire backing. If you're a professional, be my guest. But for me and for anybody who's just starting out to make tumblers, or you would just want to do things a little bit easier, I prefer cutting off only an inch of the backing so you can use that as like an anchor on your tumbler, and you just want to position that straight on so that you don't get any bubbles or tears or anything like that. And then we just wasted this whole piece of vinyl. So just an inch, guys. You don't need to do anything more. Just to be safe, I'm doing an inch. And then I'm going to slowly start pulling the backing off around my tumbler. Since this is a smaller size, it's going to be pretty easy. I'm using my fingers because I feel like I have more control when I use my fingers. I don't use a squeegee or a craft squeegee thing. Like, I don't use any of that. I just feel like I have more control with my fingers. But you can use a squeegee for this as well, of course. Just press down firmly. We don't want any bubbles. Take your time with this. This is very important that, you know, we pay attention to not getting any bubbles and we just flatten out all the vinyl around. Thankfully, I got no bubbles, so that's good. If I did, I would have used my craft knife to just poke a little hole in it and push out all that air, and you would have barely been able to see it. I'm pushing down and like pulling and tugging the top of the rim, the vinyl on the rim, so that I can use my craft knife to cut all that off. Don't be afraid to pull this hard. It's not going to rip. Vinyl's pretty flexible, so don't be afraid to tear that because you want to get a nice tight seal around that top rim. So now I'm using my craft knife. This is just an X-Acto knife that you can get basically from any store. I think I got mine from Walgreens, actually. You can get one from Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Anywhere, really anywhere. Notice how I'm pointing down with the knife. I don't want to like go sideways or upward, if that makes sense, because you can cut yourself. I've done it, trust me. So now we got a nice, clean, smooth, sharp cut on top there. And now I'm going to go down the seam where the vinyl overlaps a little bit. That doesn't bother some people, but it bothers me. So I'm going to just use my finger to kind of make a mark of where they're overlapping. And then I'll use my X-Acto knife again to just slice right down where they meet and pull up the extra vinyl. And it'll look something like this, you know, nothing extra going on here, but now we're ready for our first coat of epoxy. All I did here was I mixed about 20 milliliters of epoxy, and I used a super fine white glitter to sprinkle in there just to give it some extra sparkle. I didn't want to just give it a plain coat of epoxy. I wanted to add some shine in there. I definitely prefer white. You could use silver. I've seen people use just like a dash of silver fine glitter in their epoxy to give it that sparkly look. I personally like the white glitter. I think it looks super cute. So if you can see here, my epoxy looks a little cloudy. That's because there's glitter in it. It's not cloudy. It's not filled with bubbles or anything like that. You can use a torch. I think a torch works a little bit better. From what I've heard, I don't have a torch. My heat gun works just fine, popping any bubbles. I let that spin for 4 hours, and now I'm ready for my decal. I just got this super cute, simple sweater weather SVG file from Etsy. I'll link that person's shop down in the description box. I wanted the main focus to be the sweater vinyl in the background, so I didn't want to give this too much of a design. I just think the sweater weather looked super cute on this. And I put it back on my turner for a final 12 hours using 25 milliliters of epoxy, and that was it. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again.